Okay, so I think the key question for us is, what do Christians do with Halloween? How do we engage with the holiday known as Halloween? Welcome to another episode of Distinct People, Distinct Time, where we have a conversation about congregational life in the 21st century. I'm Pastor Scott Hand, and I'm joined today by Dan and Emily Swartz, and we're going to be discussing community engagement as it relates to Halloween. Well, welcome everyone to a special episode of Distinct People, Distinct Time. I'm joined by the one and the only Dan and Emily Swartz. It's great to have you guys on the show today. As we know, Pastor Jeff's out this week. His youngest daughter's getting married. So I like to say, now that he's gone, we can have some fun. Right?
That's right. Let the fun begin.
That's right. So this is Dan and Emily. Now, Dan, you've been a growth group leader or host home or something for a while now. So why don't we begin with you guys just explaining a little bit about who you are as it relates to growth group at Parkwood?
Yeah, so we are a part of the original launch of growth groups back in 2009, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And so Emily and I have been either a host home leader or a growth group leader ever since that time. And it has been just amazing to see how God has worked in our lives and God has worked in other people's lives. Like, I think when we think about our testimony, we know that we would not be following the Lord without really solid Christians pouring into us when we were at a stage in our life when we were not walking with the Lord well. And so for us, growth group means discipleship. That's where God really works and moves and transforms us into his image and likeness.
Yeah, and I know you and I have had many personal conversations where you've talked just about the meaning of growth group and how, you like you said, you wouldn't be here today, really, where you are if it wasn't for that.
Right.
So what about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think just, being an out-of-towner that moved to Gastonia, Parkwood is a really big church. And I feel like growth group just kind of helped make Parkwood feel smaller with having people to do life with and, just kind of finding my place here.
That's awesome. And I think that's a really big, that's a big thing with growth group. You know what I mean? It makes a big church small, which I think is true. So we brought you guys on the show today, though, to talk about something pretty specific, and that's community engagement that we do with our growth groups. Now, Pastor Jeff and I have already done an entire podcast episode on mission and community engagement. So if you remember the growth group diagram, the three essentials of a growth group are growth, community, and mission. So we're not going to go into that, but I do want to hear from you guys. What is a growth group supposed to do as it relates to mission? Because it's one thing for me to talk, but you guys are in it. You guys are doing it. So,
yeah, I think don't overcomplicate it. So I think of the sermon a couple of weeks ago around the Good Samaritan, like just be a loving neighbor. And so how do you do that within your neighborhood as a growth group, just using whatever gifts or talents that you have in a way that can be loving and kind and gracious to other people so that you can get into gospel conversations. That's the way we think about being on mission or being missional as a growth group.
Man, that's really good. So, all right, so let's talk some specifics. What are some specific things that you guys have done? I mean, I guess over the last 12 years now, but whatever you want to say. What are some things that you guys have done to engage your neighbors with the gospel?
Yeah, so we've tried to capitalize on holidays. So we've done the Halloween night. We did an Easter egg scavenger hunt throughout our neighborhood. We've done back to school events, movie nights.
Yeah, through Parkwood's help, we did backyard Bible club.
Yeah,
so we've done that. Right. We have tried to be engaging with the community through the HOA and the social committee. So Emily was on the social committee at one point in time. We have another growth group member, Jessica, who's on the social committee now. And so we try to partner with the community to do different outreach events.
That's great.
Believe it or not, at one point in time in my previous life or in our previous home, I was on the social committee simply because we were doing outreach in growth groups, and they were like, hey, can you come help us do this? So that was kind of cool to see that.
So I'm hearing you say that maybe creativity is important and maybe hearing ideas from other people, because I'm sure you guys didn't have all the ideas for all of these things, right? So how important is it to get feedback and value or an input from the members of your growth group?
I mean, I think it's huge. Like it's been, as we've been involved in the neighborhood, I don't have all the ideas or all the resources. And there's other women in our growth group who are more gifted at hospitality than I am. And, they just have other interests and gifts and are able to connect with women that I wouldn't be able to connect with. And so, like more recently, we've had like a book club that one of our growth group ladies is hosting. And so the first Friday of every month, we're just meeting with neighbors and just everyone's reading their own book and just kind of sharing about it. And so we're just prayerfully hoping that we'll have an opportunity to share the gospel in some of the books that we're reading. So there's things like that, just that, if we didn't have other women in other parts of the body, we would not be able to do. Right.
And if I, as a growth group leader, like said I was going to lead this aspect, you don't know how terrible it would be. So my role is really just to lead it. Just, who can do this? What ideas do you have? And then I'm the encourager, the one that tries to think through some of the details. Let's get this together, and pray for the event. But I am by no means thinking up of this great ideas that are happening, or sort of all of the little details that have to happen. I just think big picture and encourage like our people to do that.
And I think too, it's not just knowing the people in your growth group and what their gifts are, but it's knowing your neighborhood too. So like in our neighborhood, we have a lot of young families. So another thing we've done is just organize play dates. Like, hey, we're all going to meet at the playground at 5 p.m. and we're going to bring popsicles. Like if you want to come and hang out. And so that it's just, that works for our neighborhood. That's not going to work for every neighborhood. But like another girl in our growth group tomorrow's having people over to make cookies for Halloween, so it's just different things. You have to know the gifts in your growth group, but you also have to know who your neighbors are and what they need to.
Yeah, that's really good.
What they'd be interested in.
That's the beauty of growth group too, right? Like everybody bringing their gifts and skills together, that one person couldn't do all of those things. It takes a group of people or a body to do that. And
I think what you're saying, like, I hope our growth group leaders are listening to this and watching this, because I think a lot of them feel like they have to be the one to come up with every idea. They have to be the one to do everything. Okay. And I think y'all are providing us a good example of like, no, it's not. I don't have that gift. I don't have that skill set, but you're facilitating it, you're encouraging it, and you're leading it, but you're valuing the input and the ideas from your group. That's key. I think our growth group leaders need to hear that to relieve some of that pressure, but I mean, it needs to be done, but understanding that there's gifts in your group, that's huge.
Yeah.
Okay. So the elephant in the room, right, is Halloween. Okay. Ooh, I know, right? So Halloween's coming up. Emily, you talked about utilizing holidays, which I think is amazing. We did that on the mission field when we lived over there. That was a huge deal with missionary teams, was, utilizing these holidays to get conversations started. So let's just jump right into this conversation. How would you respond to the suggestion or the criticism that Parkwood should not encourage anything to be done for Halloween? Halloween's a bad holiday, and we should not engage in any way. How would you respond to that?
So if people are on a spectrum, I think I lean more towards that spectrum. Okay. So surprisingly enough, I would take other holidays before Halloween any day.
Just like personally?
Just personally, yeah. So I am not all in on Halloween.
Sure.
But I do think that you have to think about Halloween and how to be a Christian, right? Okay, so you can't just say, I hate the holiday, therefore I'm going to turn off my lights and I'm going to be just like a curmudgeon and forget you all. I look at it through the lens of, can I receive Halloween? Do I have to reject Halloween? Okay. Or can I redeem Halloween?
Good. Okay.
And so you think about culture, those are the filters in which I think through: receive, reject, redeem.
That's good.
And I think there's an opportunity for us as Christians to redeem Halloween. Okay. So what that means to me is that some things based off of my conscience, I just have to reject. I'm not going to participate in those aspects of Halloween. But letting my son dress up in a karate outfit and go knock on doors and candy, trick or treat, or to have a host home, throw a party in which we will try to love our neighbors, get into spiritual conversations, share the gospel. Like that to me is redeeming the culture and redeeming Halloween. So that's where I kind of push my energy towards.
That's your framework when you're thinking through those things. Okay, Emily, anything?
I mean, I just think as Christians, we're called to be good neighbors. We're called to be loving. Right. And so,
absolutely.
When we read through the Gospels, Jesus doesn't run away and try to avoid sinners. Right. He is right there in the mix with all the sinners. Exactly. And so I think that's what we're supposed to do in our neighborhood. And we have to think about the perception that our lost neighbors have of us when we just turn our lights off, refuse to give their kids candy, which is going to bring them joy. Right. So I think, with Dan, we can redeem a holiday that, maybe we don't agree with a lot of the things that go on. But we can redeem it and be loving neighbors and, use it as an opportunity to build relationships with our neighbors.
Yeah. So I think this is such an important issue because I do get feedback. I get criticism sometimes for being the pastor that's kind of leading the church in this way. So I think what you guys are saying, I think is spot on. So the way that I was not transformed, but the way I was formed in thinking about this is largely by a book by R.H. Niebuhr called Christ and Culture. And I actually have a diagram I want to put up. But he wrote a book, and he put forth 5 approaches to confronting or engaging culture. And it's answering the question, what you're saying. Christians live in culture. No matter where you are, you're in culture. So we have to ask the question, how do we engage in culture? And if you think about it, parents have to deal with this all the time. Do we watch movies? Mm-hmm. Do we only watch Christian movies? Mm-hmm. Do we listen to music? Do we only listen to Christian music, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that, like subtle ways that parents, and really any Christian has to deal with. How do we confront culture? How do we deal with culture? So Niebuhr wrote a book, and he believes that we must confront culture because we live in culture. And so he kind of has a spectrum, okay? And the far end of the spectrum is called, this is how he labels it, Christ against culture. Now, before I go any further, there's seminary classes taught on this for 2 semesters, fall and spring. And there's books written on this. So we're given a 2-minute version of this. So there's a lot more to be said. But Christ against culture says basically that we lock our door. You remove yourself completely from culture because culture is bad. Mm-hmm. So Christ is high, culture is low. These are the ones for Halloween that would lock their door, shut their lights off, and hide away from culture. Okay. Mm-hmm. The far right of the spectrum is Christ of culture, okay, which this basically says that culture is supreme. So if my faith fits into culture, then that's fine. But if it doesn't, that's fine. I'm going to be a part of culture and engage in culture no matter what. I can still be a Christian and do X, Y, and Z because culture is supreme. The middle on the paradigm is Christ is the transformer of culture. And this looks at it from the eyes of the Great Commission. Mm-hmm. We are believers that are put in a war, and we look at culture that is made bad by sin, right? And we are to share the gospel. We are to love them well with the love of Christ and seek to transform the bad parts of a culture or of a society. So I have an example. When Christine and I lived overseas, we recognized that there were some bad parts of culture that we were like, all right, we need to address some of these issues. So a couple of the guys and I started a men's Bible study. The first night of the Bible study, we wanted to see where we're coming from. So we asked the question, what does it mean to be a man in this society? What are the cultural marks of manhood in this society? And they talked for a minute, and the consensus after about 5 minutes of discussion was, you smoke, you drink, and you have a mistress. That's what they said. And I said, so all of your dads? And they said, yep. All of our dads smoke, drink, and have a mistress. Well, when they go on business trips, and I said, well, what about your like your moms? They said it's an accepted part of culture. Like for the most part, they're fine with it. So here's an example of, okay, we're Christians in that culture, so we have to confront it. How do we deal with this culture? Now, the far left of the spectrum of Niebuhr's paradigm would say, get out of there. Leave them. Yeah. They're bad. Like that's a bad culture. Get out. Do not engage. Because it's a bad influence. You're a believer. You're called to righteousness. You're called to justice. So get out, right? The far right of the culture or the far right of the spectrum would say, I can smoke. I can drink. I can have my own mistress because I'm in that society, and that society is what's supreme. Mm-hmm. I can still be a Christian, but adopt the norms of the society. The middle of the spectrum, Christ as the transformer of culture says, I'm going to teach them the Bible. I'm going to share Christ with them. And once Christ, through the work of the Holy Spirit, redeems them, he's going to transform the way they act. He's going to bring sin to bear in their life and go, this is bad. I'm called to love my wife as Christ loved the church, right? And so Christ is going to transform that culture. You see? Yeah. So that's kind of a good way to look at it. So when you place Halloween on the spectrum, it's the same thing. Far left, lock your door, hide. Far right, dress up your kids like Satan, like demons, engage in any part of the culture that you want.
That's right.
The middle says what you said. If my kid wants to dress up as a frog or my daughter as Elsa, and go trick-or-treating, that's fine. But it's more than that. It's looking at it through the eyes of the Great Commission, which says, as my lost neighbors come to my house, I'm going to be ready to talk to them about the gospel. I'm going to be ready to share my testimony of how Christ has redeemed me and transformed me, and he can do the same for you. So that's kind of how we view these moments of culture and these aspects of culture. So having said that, I do have a Piper quote that I think is helpful. He says, Christianity does not destroy, but transforms earthly culture when it is rightly embedded in it. So that's firmly in the middle. That's we don't destroy it, which is one end of the spectrum, and we don't assimilate to it, which is the other end of the spectrum. We have to be rightly embedded in the culture. And when we do that, God through us can help transform that culture. So that's the paradigm that we operate in. So in light of that, I know you guys have used Halloween, October 31st, in your growth group the last several years. So tell us about some specific things that you guys have done.
Yeah, we've done a lot of things. We've projected a movie, showed the Great Big Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. We've done a big inflatable pool full of corn and let the kids kind of play in the corn pit. We've had different games. We've had a fire pit. So just try to do things that get people to linger a little bit so that we can introduce ourselves and build conversations. And so it's not just, handing them a bag of candy, but it's actually getting them to kind of stay and hang out with us.
Yeah, and I think that's huge because a lot of people just want to grab the candy and go. So strategically trying to find a way for them to linger, I think is huge.
Yeah, we want to get into conversations, get to know them, meet them, hear their story. For those who want to get the candy and go, that happens.
Sure.
We stuff hundreds of bags of candy, and Parkwood has great little info cards that we put in there, put some information about our growth group, and kind of just pray that they'll see that, maybe come to church, sort of spark their mind about the things of God.
Does it matter what kind of candy you give?
You have to get good candy.
Good candy. So not peppermints or toothbrushes.
Yeah, it's never going to get opened. It's going to get thrown away.
That's good. Okay. So you guys have how many kids?
3.
3 kids? Yeah, right.
Individually or as a growth group?
No. Well, individually. So as a family, you've got 3. Yes. How many kids are in your growth group?
20,
yeah,
22.
20. Okay. Yeah, a lot.
A lot. That is a lot. So what do you do with your kids on these nights when you're having these corn mazes or pits or whatever you say? What do you do with your kids?
So we have actually used our growth group childcare workers,
nice.
high school, college age kids that know our kids, and they're kind of too old for trick-or-treating, but what are they doing on Halloween? So they actually come and they've helped us serve. They have taken our kids trick-or-treating so that we could stay back and serve.
Nice. That's sweet.
But I think too, we also just try to equip our kids that, hey, this is what we're doing. And so
that's good.
If we're in a conversation, we need you to respect that we're in a conversation. This is why we're trying to have the conversation. And so, there's going to be times where we just need you to hang out and play nicely with kids so we can talk to their parents. And so it means you're not going to get to trick or treat the whole time. So we just try to set the expectation for our kids of what we expect of them and really the bigger purpose of what we're trying to do. It's not just about them getting lots of candy on Halloween night.
Right. And the activities that we have, they get to participate in.
Right. So watching the movie, they could watch It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown or whatever.
We also think through what does each family want to do during that time. Like maybe a couple wants to go trick-or-treating with their kids. And so we'll strategically stagger people doing that so that there's always somebody there to pass out candy and have conversations while you still can as parents go trick-or-treating with your kid. Again, I'm not the biggest Halloween guy, so that's not like I'm dying to go trick-or-treating. They can take our kids with
them.
Because their dad won't.
Apparently. I'll play football in the backyard.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds good. No, but I think that's huge. I think understanding that your kids are part of the mission.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids are they're a part of your family, and so they should be a part of what you're doing. I think that's awesome, and we've seen that too. We've seen parents linger longer because our kids are playing with their kids and talking to them, which I think is awesome. So just being up front with your kids and explaining what you're doing, I think is huge. So, any fruit? I think we're always like encouraged by good stories. Any fruit? Gospel fruit, any good conversations that have happened, any follow-up, anything that you can share?
Yeah, I know that people, as we've done it year over year, people have recognized that we are the spot to go to in the neighborhood, right? So we have a host for the Halloween event who is like the hostess with the mostest, and the house is all decked out and it's fantastic, and people are really excited to go there. So they're like, oh, we made sure to come by here. You guys got good candy and you have fun activities for the kids, and so we have heard people articulate that. We've also heard a lot of people just say like, oh, this is so nice. You guys are so kind. And that opens the door to like, yeah, we're a growth group that's just trying to love the community. And so that opens the door for us to have some more intentional conversation from that aspect.
I have to think about that for a second. Think about what we're saying right there. The neighborhood, the house in the neighborhood, maybe the only house that is a gospel presence, that is a gospel witness, where people are living intentionally, trying to reach their neighbors. That's the house that you're saying people want to go to. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Yeah. They want to go to that house. Maybe not for the gospel witness, but that's why we're there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you've created an atmosphere where lost people are wanting to come to you.
Yeah.
And you're ready. You've equipped your growth group to be ready to engage those people when they come. That's amazing. That's incredible.
I think we've also seen fruit from this event by them letting us throw other events.
Okay.
So the partnership that we have with the social committee, I don't know if we would be able to get that if we haven't been sort of throwing events like that. And the Backyard Bible Club, I don't know if people would have come and dropped their kids off for Backyard Bible Club if we wouldn't have done that. So that allows us to do more intentional events as well.
At other times of the year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, so this is a question for Emily specifically. It's kind of, maybe it's an odd question, but I'm curious, neighborhoods are probably half women, if not more, if there's, single women in the neighborhood. So kind of speak to that a little bit. I want you to speak to the growth group leaders, wives, the spouses, the women in the growth group. Kind of what advantages or what ministries have you seen these community engagement and even Halloween open up?
It's been an awesome way for women in our growth group to serve. Maybe they don't serve somewhere at church, or, they have a hard time serving on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night or something like that. But our host home is amazing. I could not do it. And so it's been a relief off of me that I don't have to do everything. It's been really encouraging as I've encouraged them in their gifts. They're starting to catch the vision for, okay. And so now I don't have to plan every event. I don't have to pitch every idea. They're starting to come to me and saying, hey, it seems like COVID, there's all these COVID babies now. Our host home was like, hey, why don't we do like a baby play date and invite everyone who had a baby to just like come over and play and get to know each other. And that has been amazing. Like, we have built a relationship with one of our neighbors who's not a believer, and we've had spiritual conversations with her, and I literally just show up. I have not done any planning. I've done nothing. And that is a praise for me because, I don't have to do it. I don't have to carry the weight. So I think just getting them involved in the neighborhood and kind of encouraging in their gifts to help serve, even just to go take a meal to a woman that, not everyone in our growth group lives in our neighborhood, but they'll make a meal for a mom who just had a baby. And that just speaks volumes to that mom. And so we have several women in our neighborhood who don't necessarily go to Parkwood, but they come to women's Bible study here. They came to the summer Bible study that we did over the summer. So we've just been able to build relationships and have good spiritual conversations with other women in the neighborhood, which has been good training for all of us. So it's been awesome.
That is awesome. Wow. All right. So what are you guys going to do this year? October 2021. What's the plan for the Swartz Growth Group?
So we kind of just put it together as a growth group the last couple of weeks here.
Sure.
So thinking strategically, Halloween's on a Sunday. In conversations, we knew that was kind of difficult for a lot of our families as well as the neighborhood. So we're actually going to do a Halloween party on Saturday, the day before.
Okay.
And we're going to try to be a little bit strategic in sort of who we invite to the party. We can't throw a sort of a party at a house with the entire neighborhood. So people who we've had connections with in other events, we're going to invite to come over, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do sort of the movie, the corn pit, popcorn, I think some candy, but we're going to try to make it to be a sort of hangout environment so that we can sort of continue to love and serve on people.
So again, what I'm hearing is there's flexibility and creativity that is needed. You can think outside the box, growth groups. It's a good thing to think what's going to work for your neighborhood and for your group.
And every event that we have just talked about, like, didn't go perfectly or according to plan, right? So think about what went well last time, what didn't go well last time, thinking about those things. Like, it's okay to try something and fail. Like that is quite all right. We just have to keep pressing, right? So it's like we don't stop sharing the gospel because one person didn't receive it. We keep going. We have a larger mission at hand. So
yeah, that's awesome. Making yourselves available to your neighborhood. So just any final thoughts to growth group leaders? I know we kind of got into that a little bit, but any final thoughts to growth group leaders or spouses or anything in relates to Halloween, but also really engagement in general? Just want to give you a chance.
Yeah. I mean, I think just connecting your growth group to your neighbors, looking for opportunities where there might be overlap of, maybe they have kids the same age, or maybe they have a common interest, asking your growth group to pray for your neighbors. And, if one of your neighbors is sick or had a baby or whatever, asking them to bring a meal and just kind of getting them involved in your neighborhood, I think just helps to kind of create that buy-in of like, this is who we're serving. This is where our growth group is hosted. And so this is a neighborhood. So whether it's your neighborhood or another neighborhood within your growth group, but just trying to identify them and then get them involved as much as you can, I think has really helped us. I mean, we have people that don't live in our neighborhood that come to events, and people will ask them, "Oh, where do you live?" And they're like, "Well, actually, we don't live here, but we come to growth group here." And so it's like the easiest way. It's actually easier for the people that aren't in our growth group to like have spiritual conversations than it is for us, because they're like, "We don't live here, but we love your community because we go to growth group in your community." And so they just like automatically have a reason to enter into growth group and ask them, if they're involved in anything like that. So.
I would say for growth group leaders and those who might lead kind of the mission aspect of the growth group, just take some time during growth group. It's worth it to think through as a growth group, what are we going to do?
That's good.
So between now and the end of October, like spend 15, 20, 30 minutes thinking how we can be on mission for this holiday season coming up. We got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas and New Year.
A lot of opportunity.
So just I've said, okay, what do we want to do for Halloween? What do we want to do for Thanksgiving? What do we want to do for Christmas? And start to hear what people are saying. Like we said, it doesn't have to be your idea, you lead it, all that. It can really be somebody else. So, but asking that question and giving some time to it, because it's a worthwhile event, right? Like if we just huddle up and study the Bible, we're not really fulfilling the Great Commission. So from our transformation and sanctification of God's word during that time should outpour this missional aspect.
Exactly. Well, that's awesome. Well, I am super grateful for both of you and how you've led your group over the last few years, and really how you've multiplied and you've been an example. So I pray for you often. I pray for all of our growth group leaders and host homes and spouses often. So I am very grateful for y'all. So Pastor Jeff will be back next week for a regular episode of Distinct People, Distinct Time. So thank you, Dan and Emily, for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
This has been an episode of Distinct People, Distinct Time, a ministry of Parkwood Baptist Church, where we seek to glorify God by laboring together for the growth of all believers while going with the gospel to all people.